Your birthday isn't just a celebration, it's a reset. The moment the sun returns to the exact degree it occupied when you were born marks your solar return, or what I like to call your personal new year. And within that chart, because it is a separate chart from your natal chart, is your financial forecast for the year ahead, your money theme, focus, and opportunities for growth. So let's talk about how to read it. All right, so if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If this is our first time meeting, welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and sound therapist, and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if this is our first time meeting, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So today's video is all about your solar return and what it means for the year, what it means for you for the year ahead financially. All right. I love solar returns. Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, understanding your solar return requires examining a different chart, a chart that is separate from your natal chart. All right, so you have your natal chart, you have your solar return chart. And your solar return chart is basically what's going to happen, what's going to transpire, what themes you're going to encounter from birthday to birthday. So it spans a year and can tell you emotional themes, financial themes, relationship themes, right? It's a great way to forecast and to prepare for the year ahead. And so, of course, when we're talking about finances, money, timing, and astrology, I couldn't not include solar returns. And solar returns, like I said before, it's a reset. It's sort of a redo, right? Think about how you feel when it's your birthday. Apart from New Year's, it's really the only other time of the year when you're like new year, new me kind of a thing, right? And so the same can be said of your finances when you are experiencing your solar return. It's a do-over. You've had a year of opportunities, circumstances, whole bunch of stuff has transpired over the year. Now you can reflect on that and see how things are going to play out in the following year. That's the glory of solar returns. So let's talk about solar returns and your financial story. So the first thing that I want to preface and put out there is that oftentimes people equate astrology to fortune telling, right? And it's not about fortune telling, it's about forecasting. And even when we're talking about forecasting, it's not to say that this specific thing is going to happen on this specific day. Essentially, when you are forecasting or using predictive astrology, it really talks about themes that are going to present themselves and the exact situations that will play out will be consistent with those themes. So I can't speak for every other astrologer, but for me, I'm not necessarily going to tell you this is going to happen on this day. I'm going to tell you what theme you can expect over a certain period of time. And I think that's helpful because we're not always meant to know how things are going to play out exactly. I think that the universe partially does that because it would take the fun out of life, right? It would take away the surprises and the eclipses and all of those things. But knowing what theme will play out is super helpful because it can tell you how to prepare, what to do, what not to do. And that's the essence of astrology. And more specifically, solar returns. So they're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, themes that your solar return can bring up and different themes that can arise when we're talking about solar returns and your finances. All right. So to begin, I want you to think about and meditate on this core idea, okay? So your solar return chart sets the tone for the next 12 months of your life. Remember what I said? It's from birthday to birthday, all right? So it's like an annual snapshot of sorts that highlights what's being emphasized, especially when it comes to money, work, and purpose. Big emphasis on purpose. So when we talk about a solar return chart, the most important planet in a solar return chart is the sun. And the sun has a lot to do with our purpose. So, when examining a solar return chart, or even if you have me examine a solar return chart for you, it's not just about, oh, this is a great time to invest, or this is a great time to start a savings plan or start a business. It's more so about what is your purpose in life, and how is that purpose being activated over the next year, and what does that purpose activation mean for your financial story? That's essentially how I approach it. Okay. And so that's definitely something to keep in mind. All right. So now let's talk about how to find your money themes in relation to your solar return chart. So, what I'm about to describe now has a lot to do, not has a lot to do, it's describing your solar return chart. This is more advanced astrology. And I do offer a solar return chart reading, although I'm not necessarily offering it at this point in time. But essentially, you would kind of read a solar return chart like you would a natal chart. Okay. And if you want to know more, and if you'd even like a demonstration on how to read a solar return chart, join us over in Cosmic Collective, my private online community, where I go live every Friday to talk about the week's videos. You can ask questions, and I take a little deeper dive into the material. So if you want to know how to read a solar return chart, head over there, sign up, and you can get all the information you need. But in terms of actually examining the chart, the first step you would do is to look at the rising sign in your solar return chart. Your rising sign sets the tone for the year's energy. All right, so let me give you an example. Perhaps in your solar return chart, you have Taurus rising. Now, keep in mind, you may not have Taurus rising in your natal chart. Again, your solar return chart is a completely different chart, but in your solar return chart, let's say you have Taurus rising. There's going to be a focus on stability, investments, and comfort over the next year. And I do use another example. Let's talk about Leo rising. So over the next year, themes regarding confidence, creative income, and self-promotion are going to be important. So the first step, look at your rising sign. It sets the tone for the coming year. Step number 2, check the solar return second house. So just like in your natal chart, in your solar return chart, the second house also has to do with your personal finances. So the second house in your solar return chart will reveal the year's earning potential and money priorities. You're also going to want to note the sign on the cusp of the second house. That's just astrology jargon for what sign is your second house. All right. So note the sign of your second house plus any planets that are inside that house. All right. So for example, let's say you've got Jupiter in the second house in your solar return chart. That could mean that over the next year, expansion and new income streams are the focus. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory, right? At least I hope. Then, for another example, let's say you've got Saturn in the second house. So there's going to be a focus on discipline, budgeting, and restructuring finances over the next year. Okay. So again, the solar return chart operates much in the same way as your natal chart. And I do step number 3, look at Venus and Jupiter in the solar return chart. Venus shows where pleasure and profit align, all right? And Jupiter shows where you'll experience growth and opportunity. Their house placements often highlight your wealth hotspots for the year, okay? So what are Venus and Jupiter doing in your chart? This directly correlates to your wealth and abundance. So look for them in your solar return chart, and that way you can understand what your money is looking like for the coming year. Now, let's get into some extra timing tips when it comes to your solar return chart. So first, the solar return chart is active from one birthday to the next, all right? I pretty much mentioned that before. It overlays your natal chart. So note where the solar return sun lands in your natal houses for more context. Now, this is a little bit of an advanced astrological sort of practice, right? And let's say that you are a Cancer sun and you've got Cancer in your 5th house in your natal chart. But when you look at your solar return chart, you've got your sun in Cancer in the 10th house. What that means is you will take the themes of the 5th house in your natal chart, right? So Cancer Sun, 5th house, you express yourself in a very caring and loving manner, right? People can associate you with someone who's caring and nurturing. You're highly creative and you use your intuition in order to create, right? You're also very motherly. And I do. Now, when you take that information and you also add it to the information of your solar return chart, where you've got your Cancer Sun in the 10th house, now you're taking all of those Cancer 5th house characteristics and you're adding it to the 10th house. You're translating it to the 10th house. So now for the next 12 months, your ability to express yourself creatively and intuitively and that mama bear sort of identity that you have, you're immediately using it in your career. That's what I mean by examining your solar return chart and your natal chart together. And again, that's a more advanced astrological practice. I don't necessarily, especially if you're new to astrology, this could really be going over your head. I don't expect you to do that right now, but it's something to think about. And it's something to keep in mind if and when you are examining your solar return chart on your own. Okay. Next, you're going to want to track repeating themes, the same houses lighting up across multiple solar returns. Now, this is something that I don't do too often, but it is something that's helpful. You look at solar return charts in succession. So, if you're turning 30 this year, you would look at your year 30 solar return, your year 31 solar return, your year 32 solar return. And when you look at them together, perhaps your sun is in all of the money houses over that 3-year span. That really tells you a lot about your financial story, right? I feel like doing that can be a lot, but if there's a certain theme in this particular solar return chart that could be, I don't want to say troubling, but that could be difficult or maybe hard to understand or not that clear, looking at other solar return charts from other years can give you more long-term financial storyline. All right. So I think that that's super helpful. But either way, solar return charts are a great financial forecasting tool that you can use to understand what the next year ahead will be like for you financially. All right. So now let's get into some quick integration tips and why this all even matters. So first, your solar return gives you a clear annual focus. So there's no guessing as to where to put your energy, right? When you know better, you do better. And if you know what the financial theme is going to be for the year, you'll know where to put your focus. So you're not, I don't want to say doing the wrong thing, but so you're not wasting your time or your energy. All right. It's your personal financial weather report where things will shine, where you need to tighten up. And when you align your money goals with your yearly solar return theme, progress feels natural, not forced. Now, you notice I've said that phrase sort of in different iterations across many videos. And that's because when you flow with nature and not against it, nature flows with you. Things become easier. So again, when you know your yearly focus, you take aligned action. You actually do things that move the needle as opposed to just doing things because everyone else is doing them or doing things unsure, or it even gives you insight into how things will play out. That's super important too. So it's not even just about what you're going to do. It can also show you how things are likely to play out. And when you know that information, that is invaluable. And speaking of invaluable, if you want to understand how your natal chart sets the foundation for your long-term money story, that's what we explore inside my signature natal chart experience, the blueprint. Now, like I mentioned before, the solar return chart is a completely separate chart from your natal chart, and I don't cover that in the blueprint. But before you move on to more advanced charts, start at the basics. And that's exactly what we do in the blueprint. So if you are interested, the first step is to book a free 15-minute clarity call. Link is in the description box below so you can do that. All right. It shows you the energetic DNA of your earning power, spending style, and abundance potential. So no matter what the year brings, you know how to navigate it. When you know the foundation, you'll know how to move forward. And that's everything that we'll cover in the blueprint. All right. And if you love to learn how to read your own chart step by step, especially in a pace that is comfortable for you, keep an eye out for Charted, which is my upcoming beginner course that makes astrology practical and personal. If you're interested in that, the link to the waitlist for that will be in the description box below. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video on your solar return and how it affects your financial story. All right, so to recap, your solar return chart reveals your yearly money theme, what to focus on, what to refine, and where to expect growth. It is a wonderful timing tool that can help you anticipate the financial themes that are going to take place in your life over the next 12 months from birthday to birthday. All right, so don't forget to take the Abundance Archetype quiz. Link is in the description box below. If you've got more questions on your natal chart or even your solar return chart, join Cosmic Collective for this week's live Q&A. The link to that is also in the description box below. And also don't forget to enter the giveaway happening all October long. I will be gifting up to 3 blueprint experiences, so you definitely don't want to miss that. And speaking of not missing, tomorrow we're going to talk about the lunar nodes in your money houses, the karmic story of destiny, debt, and payback that shapes your financial path. This is super juicy stuff, and I know you're not going to want to miss it. All right, my loves, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.